Let's get into it. Sold Not For Sale podcast. Coach Colin here. We got Joe Rogan sitting down with Wesley Huff, and they're going to be tackling some things like, is Joe Rogan slowly stepping towards Christianity? What he thinks about Jesus. Then also, is Jesus going to show himself through AI? I got a lot of opinions on that. I think they're going to use Project Bluebeam in that way, but we'll talk about it. I'll show you some examples. Then, will he return through AI? Wes's beef with Jordan Peterson, which I didn't realize there was one, but it's a minor beef. They talk a little bit about that. But Joe Rogan gets asked point blank, what do you think about Jesus as a person, as a historical figure? And Joe Rogan gives his answer. But then also I found in my research, there's a YouTube channel, Christian one. This guy, Ruslan, I believe that's how you say his name. He's saying that he's been informed that Joe Rogan has been going to church. And I'll show you a little bit about that after this clip. Let's get into it.
I think most of what it means to be a human being in a meaningful way is not measurable. Most of it. Love and friendship and community. These things are not very measurable. They're very strange. The bond that people have with their family and their loved ones, and it's very strange. That love connection, whatever love is, whatever good is, it's a very real thing, and it seems to not exist, certainly not in the volume in other animals that exist in us. There's obviously nurturing in other animals. They nurture their loved ones, but their perception of life and death and all of it is very different than ours. So it leads me to why? Why is our version of life so much more rich and complicated than any other being that exists? And why do we have this insatiable desire to learn and know more?
Yeah.
What is it?
Why does this, however many 3 pounds of gray matter in my brain, why is that able to plummet the intricacies of the universe? Right. Like, and I think that's ultimately the questions that we should be asking in terms of, you matter more than you are matter. There's something going on there.
There's something going on with all of us.
Yeah.
We kind of know it and we don't know it, but it's just, you can't measure it and you can't put it on a scale. And so people don't like that.
Yeah.
They don't like that. It makes them feel dumb to believe in that. It makes them feel dumb to even speculate, to even just say, what do you think happens when you die? Like, even that conversation is like, people don't like that. Nothing. It goes dark and that's it. It's over. That's it. You die. Like, how the do you know? Have you died? Like, you don't know.
In all of this, what do you think of Jesus? Like, in terms of your own, journeying and trying to find answers to ultimate questions. What do you think of the historical person of Jesus?
Well, it certainly seems like there's a lot of people that believe that there was this very exceptional human being that existed. So the question is, what does that mean? Does it mean he was the Son of God? Does it mean he was just some completely unique human being that had this vision of humanity and this way of educating people and spreading this ideology that would ultimately change the way human beings interact with each other forever? So what is he the Son of God? Well, are we all? That's another question, right? Do we all have that inside of us? Do we all have that ability to change everything around us inside of us? Do we all have that unique connection to the divine? And is he a representation of the best version of that? Or was he an actual person that was the Son of God? And is it important?
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, what does it mean? It's just the fact that it's a question to ponder is a miracle in itself, in a way. Just the fact that there's this concept of this person that died for our sins as the Son of God, but you have to you have to believe in a bunch of stuff to go that way. Like, just the concept of that is interesting to people, because what it can do to people is offer them a very unique way to change the way they feel about the world itself. And if you do follow that, I know a lot of Christians are hardcore Christians. They're some of the nicest people you'll ever meet in your life. So it does work. Right? Like, if you do live like a Christian and you do follow the principles of Christ, you will have a richer, more love-filled life. So it is true, right? But you have to submit to this concept that this guy was the child of God who came down to earth, let himself be crucified, came back from the dead, explained a bunch of stuff for people, and then said, all right, see you when I come back.
And you don't know how you can wrap your head around that particular claim.
And if he came back, here's the thing. If he came back, who the f would believe him today? With all the fake news and all the CGI and AI, like, imagine. That would be the most bizarre thing of all time. If we get to a point where artificial reality is indiscernible from regular reality, and Jesus chooses to come back at that moment, boy, that's the ultimate test of faith, right? When it's impossible to discern. If we really reach a point where virtual reality is indistinguishable from regular reality, which we're probably 100 years away from that or something. Like, how far? Maybe not even that.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, that's probably why Jesus came in the 1st century and not the 21st century.
But imagine if that's the big catch. Like, Jesus does return, but when he returns, we're just so confused that we can't even tell.
Yeah.
Or maybe that's how he returns in the first place. Maybe he returns through AI.
Yeah.
Maybe that's the portal to Jesus.
I don't know anything about that. Yeah, I mean,
that scares the shit out of me.
I really appreciate, guys that you're friends with, right? Like the Jordan Petersons and the Douglas Murrays of the world, or, the Tom Hollands, not the Spider-Man actor, the historian, who talk about this stuff. I think I really like the way that Jordan Peterson articulates it, but I think he misses the forest for the trees.
How so?
In that he sees Jesus as an archetype. And I don't think actually even Jesus gives you the opportunity to see him as the archetype. Because I have this love-hate relationship with all of Peterson's stuff, because he seems to get so much right where he walks up to the line, but he doesn't want to cross over.
And is the crossover, you think, connected to a life in academia? Or
No.
What do you think it is?
I wonder, and I'd love to talk to him about this, like how do you remedy this issue that, because he seems to think that the concept of Jesus as an example is more important than the actual flesh and blood 1st century itinerant Jewish preacher who was crucified and rose from the dead physically, which is the claim of the Gospels and the rest of the New Testament. That's an example for us to look on and live by. But I actually think that Jesus condemns moralism. And ultimately what I see Peterson doing is looking at Jesus as a moral example. And if Jesus is nothing but a moral example, then you can save yourself and you don't actually need a savior. And so I think actually Jesus would have critiqued that, because Jesus was very against moralism.
And how do you define Jesus being against moralism? Like, what do you mean by that exactly?
Well, Jesus looks at the religiosity of his day with like particular groups like the Pharisees and the Sadducees, who are these other groups of Jews during his day. So we talked about the Essenes, who actually aren't mentioned in the Bible, but there are other groups like the Pharisees, who are like lay scholars, and the Sadducees, who are professional priest scholars. And he's constantly critiquing the fact that they have this hypocritical religiosity to them, where they're doing things like tithing their mint leaves, like to make sure that they get all of, this is where we get the idea of the letter of the law versus the intention of the law. Like, Jesus critiques them for that, because he says, you're trying to do everything right and you're missing the point. So one of the things he says is like, if your donkey falls in a ravine on the Sabbath, do you pull it out? Or does that work? Like, what's the point of the Sabbath? Is it to not do any work? Like, is it to make sure that you're not working too hard because you might be breaking the Sabbath? Or like, what is the point? He says, like, the Sabbath was made for man, not man for the Sabbath. And that there's this intention. This is the whole Sermon on the Mount, Matthew chapter 5, is he keeps saying, you have heard it said, but I say, and he refers to the Mosaic law. And it looks like he's critiquing the Mosaic law, but he's not actually. He's getting back to the intention of the law. So when he says, you have heard it said, do not commit murder, but I say to you, anybody who harbors a hate for their brother in their heart has already committed murder. And what he's getting to is like, what's the intention? What's the meaning of the law that God gives to you? Because the law is like a mirror. It shows you how dirty you are. But his critique is, he's like, you guys are trying to clean yourself with a mirror. That's stupid. It's just if anything, it's going to make you more messy. Like, get in the shower. The law is not what cleans you. The law is what reveals that you're dirty. And so in that sense, I think, if Jesus is a moral example, it actually misses what I think Jesus actually said about what his purpose was, in that you can't do enough to actually live up to the standard that God holds you to. And so if you keep striving, you're actually going to wear yourself out and be exhausted.
Like atheists.
I didn't say you did, Joe.
A lot of them go crazy. They go crazy when they get older.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Listen, Wes, this is.
So that's pretty much the end of the episode there. But I just found that interesting, especially what he said about the Sabbath, because in Crown Heights, you see a lot of Orthodox Jewish people, and they follow the Sabbath. And I even have cousins who are Christian who devoutly follow the Sabbath as well. And you're actually allowed to pull that donkey out. I'm pretty sure you're allowed to pull the donkey out, because if you don't, then it's like bad for your family. I don't know. But I know for a fact you're allowed to pull the donkey out. In case any of you have a donkey and you're following the Sabbath and you're wondering, very interesting stuff there. Wes Huff, again, at the same time, you got to thank God for Billy Carson, because a lot of people are introduced to Wes through Billy Carson. And, how somebody even said this in the comments of my last video, how monumental would Billy Carson be if instead of debating a guy like this, they just kind of sat down together and like carved some stuff out? Because at the end of the day, it's like, I don't like Billy Carson's attitude towards embracing so many things that are like borderline demonic, referring to God, all God, as like a sky daddy and things like that. I don't like things like that. But he's such a powerful voice. He does, like, the things he says about the food system and the government and stuff. You can't discount that just because he lost this debate with Wes. But he would be so much more powerful if he just combined it with a person like this and, kind of just went back and forth and kind of expanded on his thoughts and his opinions and don't represent it like it's expertise. I think he'd be massively powerful. But thank you to him, because I didn't know who Wes was until Billy stepped in front of him. So Billy is that much of a powerful person, in my opinion. He's been at it for a long time, and yeah, thank you for showing us this. Now, I'm going to get into some stuff here. Should I get into the Project Bluebeam stuff first? Joe Rogan going to church or Project Bluebeam? Let me hear. Because you already have your tinfoil Speedos on, right? If we already got our tinfoil Speedos on, I think we should just get to the Project Bluebeam stuff. I'll go to the church stuff afterwards. Because apparently Joe Rogan's been going to church. Okay? But I'll show you that in a second. But the thing is, Joe Rogan brings up, Jesus, AI, him returning through AI. That, to me, right away, I'm like, oh, Project Bluebeam. Like, I'm just going to play this without sound. But this is a hologram, right? I think, Project Bluebeam is all about an alien invasion being done through technology like this. But if an alien invasion happens, there's going to be so many Christians that are going to be like, I don't care. There you go. You go to a Christian person, you go to Jewish people, and you say, hey, do you want to worship this alien? It's super smart and he just got here. They'll be like, no, thank you. Bye. We're going now. Christian people will be like, oh, they'd be like, well, you're not the Son of God, Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. But listen, with your big head and your big eyes, come on to church, big guy. Huh? Come on to church. You can sit down with us. You ain't got no clothes on. That won't do. You're going to have to put at least some drawers on. But other than that, come on in, big guy. Come on. How many are you guys? Are little guys. You guys are little people, aren't you? You guys can all come in. You sit right at the front. It'll be great. Teach you all about Jesus. That's what they're going to do. And the Muslim community is going to be like, where's your planet? Why don't you have clothes on? And what do your women look like? Do they not have clothes on? Yeah, we're going to fix that for you. Muslim people will take that planet over in 10 months. Whole planet would be doing that whole thing. I'm kidding. Whole planet be Sharia law. They're not bound down to no aliens. These are the three biggest religions. They're not bound down to no aliens. But if you started doing things like this and just change that into Jesus, just change that into Hashem for the Jewish people, just change that into Allah, now you got something going on. Change that into a deity. Now you really have something going on. And I think they're going to try that because I know, I mean, listen, I love my Christian friends, but I know a lot of them that would fall for this. 100%. I mean, they don't know about Project Bluebeam. You know what I mean? They don't know about it. They don't know that that exists. They don't even know that this technology exists. So if they see this and it was Jesus, they might be like, oh my God, it's happening. It's happening finally. You know, there's going to be a lot of people who are going to be like, it's happening in my time. Amazing. And they're going to hold on to that. They don't want to, it can't be a trick. No, this is happening in my time. So I think that's what they might try when it comes to that whole thing. So that's what came to mind for me when Joe Rogan brought up when he brought up Jesus coming back through AI, you know, Jesus being AI, which is pretty, I won't say it's a demonic thing, but look at this technology, man. Like, come on. What do you think they're going to do with that? Anytime you see technology, and I've said this with like testing too, you know, anytime you see them doing tests, you know, they're like, oh, we're testing these lab rats to see what they'll do in a community if we just give them everything they want. It's like, why are you doing that test? Obviously, you're doing that test. Obviously, that's us, that you're trying to figure out how to do things to us. Obviously. Why are they doing these little things? It's like, yeah, it's for a company. And yeah, it's just fun. But eventually, you think they're not going to turn that towards us? I think so. You know, look at this stuff. This is not a filter. This is not the person's phone doing this. This is what's happening in that stadium. They're really seeing stuff like this. You know? So I think alien invasion might be one thing, but deities would be the smarter thing, especially if you're looking to influence the masses. Aliens only going to do so much to so many people. You know what I mean? Like I said, alien planet, be under Sharia law in a second. There are some things, I haven't been on stage in a while. There are some things that you got to purge out of yours. I have to purge out of myself so I can be in front of the camera a little better. Because I can't be saying that. I'm kidding. I'm just kidding. I got to take that one to the stage. I got to take that to an open mic with only 10 people in the crowd. I can't be saying that on this. Oh, man. But they're jokes. They're jokes. Again, this one's Taylor Swift. They made her look like she's glowing. Again, this is not a filter on someone's phone. This is just what's happening in the stadium. They're literally making her look like some kind of deity. This is all just through holographic technology. So I think they would do something like that in regards to Jesus. You know, funny that Wes has a beef with Jordan Peterson. You know, Jordan Peterson is afraid to step over the line. You know, he was asked one time about, do you believe in God? And he's like, what do you mean by do? And what do you mean by God? And what do you mean by believe? And bro, you're way too smart to not know how to answer a question. Way too smart. Go ahead. He wouldn't answer the question. And it's all good. You don't have to answer that question. In fact, you know, it's respectable to say no. That's not how I feel. But if someone doesn't believe, it's like, cool. You know? Now let's get to this. This is the dude. I don't know how to pronounce his name. I think it's Ruslan. But he bounces around in my Christian men's group. They share a lot of his videos. And I don't really watch them all that much. But, you know, you can only imagine my YouTube feed. It's just all Joe Rogan stuff. It just is, you know. It's just news and Joe Rogan stuff peppered with like World Economic Forum stuff. So obviously I found this video. So this is them talking a little bit about what they've heard through the grapevine.
Offer them a very unique way to change the way they feel about the world itself. And if you do follow that, I know a lot of Christians are hardcore Christians. They're some of the nicest people you'll ever meet in your life. So it does work.
Hey. Props to all the Christians that Joe Rogan knows.
Hello.
There are probably so many of you guys behind
Planting
the scenes,
right there,
planting
baby.
seeds, loving on this dude, giving them the right balance of grace and truth.
Mm-hmm.
There's been some alleged appearances of Joe Rogan at a very specific church in Austin.
What?
Okay, alleged. Popping in. All right.
Are we leaking that?
Are we
right now?
leaking that? I'm not going to say the name of the church, but I've had quite a few people from the church reach out to me that says he's been pulling up. These are all great signs. These are all great signs. Go ahead.
You're right. Like if you do
So they're like the clip that I just played, they were like reading deep into that clip, and they're like, the language that he's using shows that he knows about the gospel, and he's saying the word submit, which is very true. Whenever you talk to, I think it's people in all religions, they talk about a lot of submitting and obeying, which is what a lot of people don't like. Like, why do I have to submit to this thing that I feel was written by man? Why do I have to submit to a man that I don't know? So they're saying that. Here's another clip of him.
It seems like
He's asking all the right questions.
he's asking all the right questions.
Yes.
He seems like he is articulating the gospel really well.
Mm-hmm.
It also seems like the hardest part he's hung up on is the resurrection, which he got a lot of good evidence for, a great apologetic for in this setting.
Mm-hmm.
And you seem to have leaked this rumor.
Okay, first of all, it's not a leak.
Has anyone else talked about it publicly?
If I leaked this and Joe Rogan didn't want this to be out, I'm sorry. This is what happened. I posted that Wes was going on Rogan.
Okay.
Someone commented, my buddy just sat behind Rogan in church. He was there for the Christmas service. He's been there a couple of times. I pinned it. People started commenting underneath him. And I know what church it is. Now we know what church it is. Now I know I got mutual friends with the pastor at the church.
You should unpin it.
Well, this is what happened. So the dude deleted the comment because it blew up.
And he didn't mean to air it out.
He didn't mean to leak it. Now he didn't name the name of the church. He said my buddy sat behind Rogan at church. Then I got multiple DMs from members of the church saying Rogan's been pulling up, but he's been pulling up and sneaking out, which he should.
Yeah,
right. I've been at churches where Justin Bieber pulls up. Right. There's a security element to it,
yes.
right? It's like when Jordan Peterson pulls up, there's a security component to it.
Yep.
So he's been pulling up, pulling out. This is what's being said to me by multiple people in the DMs. And then they said the day before they recorded this, that it was again, this is all secondhand account. I don't have pictures to verify this. I don't got any proof.
You're like Luke. You're like the gospel.
I'm just telling you what's been told to me. I'm just passing it on. That Rogan pulled up and went in through the front door and came out of the front door and lingered in the lobby and met people. Which again, I've seen this. I've seen Justin Bieber do this in person with my own eyes. I took my sister to a church when she was at UCLA in the LA area, saw Justin Bieber pull up, hang out, meet people, dap people up, sit and chat and talk to people.
Yeah.
They're saying that's what Rogan did the day before this was recorded. Now, he didn't share this with Wes, so this could be unverified, but this is what people are saying happened.
And so in context of all of that,
That's very, very interesting. Now, it makes sense that Justin Bieber would be doing that at a church. I mean, that guy was baptized in baby oil at Diddy's house. So you got to cleanse. You got to cleanse that off. You know what I mean? One shower won't do. You got to go to the holy water. So that makes 100% sense. But Rogan doing that is very weird. But again, why would these people lie? He won't name the church. It's interesting. It's interesting. You know, I know it's not my church, and I got a church in Austin, so I know it's definitely not my church. But you think you'd hear about this more, you know? But also, these people don't talk. They'll just talk to each other. That's what I don't like about. That's the only thing that puts me off with a lot of religion, is that people don't talk as much. But yeah, I don't know. That's. I don't like any people who are like just to themselves all the time. You know, I say that, but then at the same time, all of a sudden you look at the UK and you're like, stay to yourself a little bit, guys. I'm not saying who. I'm not naming anybody. I'm kidding, kind of. I mean, look at the UK. But yeah, it's interesting. It's very, very interesting to think about this guy going to church, and you know, because Rogan's had all these weird encounters. Like you guys know me. I watch every episode twice. I'm a nerd when it comes to this show. So, you know, the fact that Hulk Hogan was there and Hulk Hogan's all of a sudden talking about church. And he's like, I go to church all the time, and he's talking about Christianity. It was like, what? And then Kid Rock is like, would you like to know Jesus, brother? It's like, what? What's happening? It's the weirdest thing. So he's had a lot of those encounters. 2024, he had at least a dozen encounters with people who weren't there to talk about religion at all, and then opened up about their experiences with it. So when you see stuff like that start happening to you, there's something going on, And again, this is just a church conspiracy. You got you thought when I said all this that we weren't going into some kind of conspiracy? This is a church conspiracy. That's all this is. All the church people, they're like, I saw Joe Rogan. They're talking about him like he's Bigfoot. I saw him yesterday. He's a hard guy to see and it not be him. You know what I mean? Like, especially if you see, like, his hands have that thing called vitiligo or something like that, where it like discolors and it turns dark if you're white and it turns white if you're black. He has that on his hands. Then he has tattoo sleeves right up to his, like, I think all the way up to his biceps. The guy he's not making fun of him, but he's a little short. And then all of a sudden he's all thick and his hands are big. And it's hard to kind of, you know what I mean? He's a very distinct looking gentleman. I'll just say that, So it's hard to be like, I think that was Joe Rogan. It's like, that's like somebody being like, I think I saw Coach Colin. Bro, if you saw this, then you saw me, obviously. You know what I mean? And then that jawline. If you saw that jawline. I gotta go like this because it's like a double chin now. But yeah, he's a hard person to miss. So I wonder what's going on there. Sam Tripoli said no, not Sam Tripoli. This was Eddie Bravo, actually, while he was on Joe Rogan's podcast. He said, when you dig into conspiracies enough, he goes, everybody ends up at the Bible. Because there's so many passages that seem like they're predicting what's going on today, the mark of the beast, and then you look at today and you're like, what is the mark of the beast? And, it could be money. It could be, Amazon One, where they have you scan your palm to buy groceries, and that's something that they're expanding around Whole Foods, or it could be Neuralink. I lean towards Neuralink because that just makes sense. Elon Musk wants to make his platform where you can send money and receive money. And then maybe it gets to one day where you can't do that without the mark. And inevitably, I assume a piece of your skull being taken out and put back in, there would be a mark. So I think it's that. And he might even get it to the point where it gets smarter and all of a sudden it's something in your wrist, or maybe it's both. Now you have this and that, and then it starts acting like a device of some kind. I don't know. You guys actually thought this was just going to be about Christianity. Buddy, I might as well staple these tinfoil Speedos onto me. Okay? If I didn't have to wash them, I would. Okay? Be clear. You know who this is. But yeah, it's interesting because he's right. You do get into that. When you start reading like religious texts, you're like, oh, this is trippy. What's going on? And like, why is it predicting things that are happening today? It's very weird. Very weird. Yeah, I mean, take a look. Even don't even look at it. Don't look at it for the religious thing. Don't look at it for calming if you don't want to. Look at it just for that. The weird things it predicts. Like somebody was telling me something about the Bible saying something about the second trumpet, and then they were talking about, like, if you read the whole thing, it sounds like they're predicting Trump's second term as president. And you're like, what? Right down to they say the second trumpet, and this trumpet is going to sound the alarm because it's a trumpet. So it's going to blare the alarm. And it's like, that's kind of what he's doing. And it's like, it's all so trippy. So who knows why Joe's there, man? Maybe he's just getting blasted and just being like, let's go to church. Maybe he's there with Duncan Trussell and he's just like, let's go to church, man. Let's go to church. Let's sit down. Let's do it. I don't know, man. I don't know. But anyways, guys, I just wanted to bring you that. I don't know if he's at church. If you've seen him at church, you're in Austin, you've seen him at church, let me know. Let me know 100%. Like, subscribe, turn on the notifications, helps the channel tremendously. And please look out for Project Bluebeam. I'm out.